Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Studio Talk. My name is Barry Johns, and this is going to be a continuation of where I really talk about do plugin subscriptions make sense or not. And specifically today, we're going to talk about Slate's plugins. I have in the past subscribed to Slate's plugins, mainly to kind of check them out and and just have some variety to my plugin list. And I ultimately ended up canceling the subscription, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the reasons why. Let's first talk about, some of the things that make Slate subscription model compelling. It's one of the least expensive plugin subscriptions that you can get into. You can go month to month, no problem. And if you want to postpone it, well, like many others, I guess you could do that with a lot of them. You can just, if you want to stop, you can stop. If you want to keep going, you can keep going. If you're just getting started in this and you really want to get exposure to plugins beyond the stock plugins that come with whatever DAW you're using, and I will say that today, for the most part, just about every DAW out there gives you some really high quality stock plugins. And I would always encourage you, if you're in the beginning of your journey with that, stay with those for a while. Really learn how to use those and get a vibe for how they work, because you're probably at the stage where you're learning a lot of things. You're learning, what does compression do? How to use an EQ, what frequencies to boost or cut, and how wide do you make it? All the various things that come along with that. And you wanna really explore those. And so I would encourage you to really work with them, because you can actually do really great work with just stock plugins. So kind of keep that in mind. But one of the things that non-stock plugins, when you go out there, of course, buying versus basically renting when you're subscribing, is the color, what we call color, that they'll give you. Whether that's that Neve vibe, that API vibe, that's SSL vibe, all of those things. The difference between a 1176 style compressor compared to an LA2A style compressor. And so all those things bring some unique character to things, and they can be very beneficial when incorporated into your workflow. So at the end of the day, Stephen Slate covers the gamut with trying to model very popular hardware out there. Things like the Distressor. Again, they have their Waves version. They have their Neve version. They have their own proprietary compressors and EQs that they use. And you get it. You really get all the plugins you really need across the board, from the mixing stage even to your bus compression, and ultimately out to mastering if you try to do that yourself. And so ultimately you get a great variety, and the reverb that comes with it is actually a very good reverb. I do like that one a lot. So for $14 a month, basically, you get access to all their plugins. Plus, you get a lot of extra material. There's a lot of training videos that you can watch, and so and as well as some samples that come from free. They're very good about continuing to add value to their subscription. That is something that I think they do a very, very, very good job of. Some of the areas where I'm not a fan, and this is personal preference, because, this is not unusual for plugin manufacturers to kind of go this direction, but I don't like the virtual mix rack. I hate that workflow. I really do. I can't stand it. I don't want to have to pull up a plugin and then see all of those things instantiated. And at the end of the day, yeah, you could just do one where it does one if you pull it up. But then again, you're going to be constantly changing that. I don't like that at all. I'd prefer nobody go that route. Let me tell you, I hate it. I actually hate working that way. And I would rather put one plugin at a time as I need them, instead of having them all right there in front of me. So the advantage of that is you can move things around back and forth and decide, do I want to put that compressor before the EQ or after the EQ? Where do I want to put this limiter? Just across the gamut, all those things. So some of that stuff helps you explore that, but I'm not a fan of the virtual mix rack. And ultimately, the driver has to be the reason he's doing that is because he wants to sell you the Raven. And, the Raven is an interesting product. And that's basically a touchscreen controller. Some people love it, and some people try it and hate it. So it's kind of not for everybody, and this is not really about that today. But doing his plugins in that type format with the virtual mix rack, makes that easier to operate on the Raven, I think. I think that's the driver behind him wanting to go that route. But for people who don't use it, like myself, not a fan of it. And then ultimately, when you've got a controller of some type and you're controlling plugins, it gets complicated. And most of the time on mine, it just doesn't even work the way you would expect it to on your controller when you're controlling plugins. And so that's another reason I'm not a big fan of that style. I'm not necessarily bashing the plugins themselves. I just don't like that workflow at all. Now, you may use it and you may love it. It may make things easier for you, and that's perfectly fine. We all work differently. We all don't have to work the same way, but that's where I particularly have issues with that particular workflow. Now, let's talk about their plugins in general. I said before, I really, really, really like the reverb that comes with it. I think it's really good. And their buzz compressor / limiter, it's kind of a pain in the butt to use, but you can get good results as long as you don't try to go too far with it. You really got to pay attention to how you use that, but you can get decent results from that. As far as their other plugins are concerned, whether it's SSL Neve or the Distressor or 1176, those type of plugins that you get with it, I think they're just okay. I don't think any of them are great. There's lots of manufacturers that make much, much better versions of it. I would kind of put it on par with, some of the Wave stuff, depending on which ones. I mean, Waves can make some really good plugins, but a lot of their stuff hasn't been updated in a very long time. And so when you watch the videos with Slate comparing his plugins to the hardware, I'm always suspicious of that. And I'm not saying that he's doing anything funny. It's just when I compare, as an example, comparing, I have a distressor here in the studio, and when I compare his version of the distressor to mine, I'm sorry, it's not it. Sorry, Slate, not it. Now, is it a good compressor? Is it a good compressor to use? Well, sure it is. Yeah, of course it is. But you have to understand that you are getting a lot for your money. And if you don't have a lot of expendable cash and you actually find that you're going to utilize all the stuff they throw in with it, the training videos, the samples that come with it, and plus, an abundance of plugins, and by all means, go down that route. But I would encourage you later on when money is better, because we all start out, when I started out doing this, I was dead broke. But so for those of you, if you can afford it, you're probably going to want to look at better plugins. And that is one of the advantages to subscription model versus buying the plugins, is you're kind of not stuck with them. You can just move away from them at any point. Because at the end of the day, you could pay that subscription for Stephen Slate for years and years and years and still not, you're still going to save money versus buying the plugins outright, and so that's one of the things with subscriptions that you got to keep in mind. And I would ask you consider, compare a subscription to doing Netflix. It's the same thing. You don't pay your Netflix subscription, you can't go back and watch any of those shows or TVs. You're paying for the opportunity to experience them. Well, much is the same way for plugin subscriptions. Again, I hate it when DAWs do it, like Avid predominantly. I mean, I think it's utterly despicable what they do when it comes to their subscription plan, but it kind of is what it is. And so, you can see if I move over a little bit, I got Pro Tools running back there. You can see, so I'm a Pro Tools user, but an Avid hater. Okay, so anyway, my recommendation, if you're on a budget and you need to get great bang for your buck, Slate's a good way to go. But don't tell yourself that you've got premium, the best of. It's not that they're bad. They're not bad at all. They're just not great. There's a few gems in there for sure. And Slate is also pretty good about updating things and, you know, and that type of thing. So he's good at that, you know, and if the guy's good at anything, he's good at marketing. You know, he does a great job of marketing his stuff to the point to where, you know, sometimes you feel like you're, you know, at a car dealership buying a car, you know, a little too slick sometimes, but regardless, you know, at some point I'll do a review, or not a review, but an overview of the VM1. I think that's what it's called. You know, hang on, what's it called? This thing right here. You know, I do have one of these, and it does a good job. It does a good job, but it's nowhere near as good, in my opinion, that he says it is. I think the Townsend Lab one, I think Universal Audio just bought them out. That one to me sounds a lot better. And going that kind of route with just having one mic, being able to get character of other things is a great option. But I'll talk about that in another video. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you regarding Slate. Ultimately, you have to decide what's best for you. You know, at the very least, you know, demo the plugins. See if you like them. See what you think about them. If they give you, look, at the end of the day, if they're helping you be creative and helping you get your ideas that's in your head, that through your hands in whatever instrument you may play, or whether you're recording other people for fun, or whether you're trying to do it for a business, at the end of the day, you've got nothing to lose. Give it a try. You know, it's definitely going to give you a lot more flavor than your stock plugins, although your stock plugins can go a long way. But don't make the mistake of getting into owning a gazillion plugins, because here's where you're going to end up. I'm going to tell you right now, hang on, where's my crystal ball? Let me grab my crystal ball. It happens to be not illuminated right now, so you can't see it, but I can feel it in my hands. Here's what you're going to end up Here's what you're going to end up doing with all those plugins that you buy. You're going to end up not using the vast majority of them. I'm going to tell you straight up, that's what's going to happen. And so don't get sucked into that. Don't get sucked into some of these recording forums that are out there that make you want to try the new latest and greatest and latest and greatest. Again, that's one of the advantages of subscription, is you're not stuck doing that. But then again, you have to do the ROI, whether or not it makes sense for you or not. You know, I've got another video out there on Brainworks. I happen to give a huge thumb up to their subscription model. I think it's an incredible bang for the buck. And quite honestly, in my opinion, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than buying the plugins outright. But then again, they give you a voucher. Go check out that video. I think you'll find that interesting. But at the end of the day, you have to make the decision on Slate. You could be a current Slate subscriber, and maybe you want to say, maybe let's put that bad boy on pause for a second and let me try something else. You try something else and you say, no, I kind of like the slaves, the Slate work-through slaves. Kind of like a difference between waves and Slate, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so anyway, maybe you try that out and you may find that, hey, I want to go back to it. I like the workflow. If it sounds good to your ears, at the end of the day, it's all that matters. That's all that matters. You know, we all get caught up in that chasing the better and better. I know I certainly do, and have a history of doing that. So I'm going to try and take my own advice. So anyway, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you found this somewhat helpful. You know, I wasn't going to go into depth about every one of their plugins. Again, you can download the demo and check them out yourself. You don't need me to do that. But at least you can. Maybe I've given you something to think about, something to consider, whether you're a current subscriber or whether you're considering subscribing, or whether you hate subscriptions in general and you say, I don't want to have anything to do with it. There's good arguments, I guess, across the board for all of those perspectives. You know, I try to play a little bit devil's advocate on all these things. So I think I hit it before. I don't know if I said it before, but hey, like, subscribe, notify, do that. Helps me grow this channel. The main thing I want to get out of this channel, if I could just get enough to maybe make a couple $100 a month, I can buy more gear, and that's what I'm going to do with it. So anyway, I appreciate all the support I've received so far. It's truly, truly, truly immensely humbling. And so at the end of the day, you know what you should do? You should have a great day.